Hello, hello, what is going on, YouTube friends? Phoenix61 here with some Skull and Bones shenanigans today, right? So, this is going to be my top 4 list of best ships and their corresponding builds and uses, right? So, this is, very opinionated. I know some of you guys, have some other thoughts and feelings, right? But so this first we are starting off with the Snow, right? So this is the tank build ship, right? And I feel like its best use is, this I see a lot of people using this for their everyday daily sailor, right? Their everyday driver. But where this ship shines, I feel, is in the monster hunts, right? The sea monster fights. The biggest advantage that this ship has is its extra hull strength and its extra bracing strength, right? So all the sea monster fights, for the most part, they all have just one big hit that they do to you, right? And so some of the other ships, if you don't have that brace power, right, then they take you out one shot, right? So especially, this is the sort of the regular mode, normal, easy variant of Lestari, right, from Season 2. And if you go and fight the harder version of it, right, you can get slapped by that tail, attack and just die, right? So, but with this build, you'll survive it, you'll brace, and then I highly recommend using, having some restoration kits as well as repair kits, because as you can see, he does do damage to your sails as well with that attack, and so you'll be kind of immobile without those, right? But we're able to fairly easily finish him off solo with this build, so we will go into it, right? So, but yeah, what you're after is the brace strength and the extra hull health, right? So if you look over on the right side here, recovers brace strength by 4% even while you're bracing, increase brace strength by 150%, and strength recovery by 100%, right? So like, let's just brace, like this thing can take hits, right? So, and keep that brace going. A big chunk of hull health as well, 52,500. I think the part of that is because I've got some of the furniture piece, right? I've got double planked hull in there. But Dardanelles guns all the way around, right? So these seem to be the best bet for fighting sea monsters. They are a Season 1 weapon, right, that you would have had to have bought from the bartender. If you don't have any, you might be able to get them from the legacy crates that you can buy from the bartender, right? I think there's some other choices, fire bombards kind of work. Some people like the twin winch ballista, right, for fighting sea monsters, right? So there are some other options out there for sea monster hunting if you don't have these. These I feel like work the best in my own personal experience, right? So those are just all the way around, front, sides, back, everything. For the Ox weapon, highly recommend one from this season, the Infernal Maw, if you have it. This one comes from the Smuggler's Pass. There's no extra cost for it, right? You just have to progress through the Smuggler's Pass. But the burning, perk that's in here is really great too. But really what you want is just the mines floating in the water, right? Because the sea monsters all swim through the water, right? And so as they swim through these, they take damage, right? They're gonna set them off. So if you don't have the Infernal Maw yet, use one of the other ones, right? With the exception of the healing one, right? And then I picked, for now, I'm using Stormwoven Symphony. So this is a new armor piece as well that comes from the bartender in St. Anne. And it's because you get this, it deals attack damage once you release brace. So I kind of figure, as they're always doing a melee attack, so they're always right next to you, and then when you're always going to brace it because it hurts real bad, and then when you let go, you do damage to them. So I did see consistent damage being done to the normal variant of Lestari. I can't remember if I saw decent chunky damage getting done to the Mega Lestari or not, but yeah. I used the Wraithful Ward last season too. It didn't seem to work as good, but Water Tank for the major furniture. This is because it's helping out extremely well with the bracing effect. Maintenance Forge, this is just kind of a nice to have. So if you do go down, right, you'll have that severe damage from when you respawn, and so the Maintenance Forge will help heal most of that while you're sailing back into the fight, right? And then Bombard Works just helps out with the bombards, and then yes, the double planked hull. will get you a little bit more hull strength as well, right? So we're kind of capitalizing on the tank build. As you get this ship upgraded, you're going to get more health, and you'll get an extra furniture slot as well. So keep that in mind. I didn't quite have it upgraded all the way. Next on my list in third place is the Brigantine, right? This is a ship for speed, right? So if you're doing, you know, with Season 2, we had the race events, and as you can see, we went from 0 to 20 knots very, very quickly in this ship, right? So I will show you the build, how to get that little bit extra acceleration as well. And I don't quite think I had this upgraded all the way at time of recording, so you do get a little bit of extra speed as you upgrade the ship as well. And then as you can see, we were using water tanks right off the bat, or water barrels, right? So, and then I always have a piece of, you know, the recipe food types, right? I always have one for speed and one for fighting, right? So those are the two that I like to use that you can see there. And so, yeah, obviously we're using the speed one for the Brigantine while we're doing speed runs, right? So really, really great for things like racing, possibly legendary cargo hunts where you're trying to run away from people or catch up to people. And then if you're still collecting, you know, if you like collecting pieces of 8 from the factories manually, this is probably the way to go, because it's faster, right? So so you can see it over on the right, all the perks of the ship and the loadout, but I'll dig into it a little bit more here. I chose the Skurlock's Long Nines all the way around, right? So you buy these from Skurlock for Gold Skull rum, right? And just because, like, you know, if you're doing speed stuff, people might be far away, it's nice to have the long range weapons, right? And it's nice to be able to tear their sails and slow them down, right? And then I went Infernal Maw as well for the Ox weapon here. Just because, you know, if you are in those like speed situations where you got somebody behind you you're trying to get away from, it's really nice to just lay some landmines, you know, some sea mines for you, right? I think previously I had the LeFleur on there. Leopold 3 is always a good choice. Like, these are, I mean, this is all opinion, right? But and then for hull, I was using Wrathful Ward at the time that I recorded this. There is a new armor piece from the Sea People Huntmaster for this season that gives you a little bit more armor strength per knot speed that you're going, right? So the faster you go, you get a little bit more armor, but it's nothing crazy. Like, it's not that much better than, you know, any of your other, you know, purple colored armor pieces. Furniture is where it's at, right? There are some decent furniture pieces. The rope locker, I think, is one of the first one you get in the game, so that's helping out with acceleration and stamina. And then, yeah, we're just literally picking things that have acceleration and stamina, right? Like, so, like, we're trying to keep the stamina high, or acceleration and deceleration, right? So these are really, really noticeable when you're going from a stop, you know, so if you're making turns and you're stopping at factories to pick up 8s, you know, like, those are noticeable to have, and you definitely see the difference when you go from 0 knots to 20 very, very quickly, right? So my runner-up is the Bark, right? So this is the ship from last season that you could get through the Smuggler's Pass. Of course, now you can buy the blueprint for it, 4 pieces of 8 from the bartender. And I'm doing like a mixed build, right? So I think this is one of the most versatile ships that you can kind of build how you want. I chose cannons on the sides, right? And then fire bombards in the front. And so as you can see, we're decimating these guys. We've triggered floods on them. We're using Leopold 3 for our Ox weapon, right? And so I like using this build and this ship for things like rogue hunts, or like, I mean, it works good for like convoys too. Anytime you're not gonna, you know, you want to be out in the water for a long time without stopping at a port, right? So like, because this extra heal that you get from this, it automatically heals itself very, very slowly, right? It's huge. It saves you money on repair kits and all that other fun stuff, right? And it's got decent DPS too. It's not, you know, it's definitely not one of the top ones for DPS for doing damage to ships, right? But it's pretty good if you build it out right. So, and we'll show that here too. So, you know, this is one of the Chorus Fleet ships that was hunting me down because I had 8s on me or something, right? So we launch our Leopold 3, and then we're using the carronades on the sides, right? So these are the weapon from last season. We launch the Leopold, we trigger the flood, and then we're using fire bombards in the front and back to try and trigger fires, right? So he's currently flooding, and we're going to have him on fire soon. We're going to use the crew attack since it came up, right? So just how quickly we were able to take this ship down, like, it's not bad when it comes to DPS, but, you know, there's couple better choices out there when you need it. But as you notice, so now we have him flooding and on fire, and we're shooting him. So it's going down quick, right? So that damage over time effect from the flooding and fire, I think people like, you know, underestimate that, right? But so here's the bark. And then, of course, yes, the perk that we want here is the Revitalize, which is basically automatically healing you and any allies, friendly ships that are in the area, right? So super, super nice. Super, super, like, just, you know, it's just such a nice to have. It's a good quality of life ship, right? I feel I'm, like, not using anywhere near as many repair kits as I do with something like my, my Sandbook, right? So fire bombards in the front and back, right? So use the highest ones you got, right? My recommendations, right? Just because we're trying to light people on fire and flood them at the same time, right? So the Carronades, these are the cannons from Season 1. So if you didn't get these, you'd have to probably get them from either drops or the legacy crates from the bartender, right? But what's nice about these is they cause flooding and also cause severe damage if the target is flooded, right? So, and then fire bombards in the back, and then Leopold 3 for the Aux. The point, my reasoning here is to trigger that instant flood, basically, that you get when you hit somebody with the Leopold 3. So then your Carronades can, you know, your cannons on the sides can kind of go to town and do that severe damage. So maybe a little bit of a PvP element advantage kind of thing going on there, right? That would be good for. I also went with Black Prince on this, but I think this is, like I said, this is one of the most versatile ships in the game. Like, I think it is the most versatile ship in the game. You do you with this build, but this was my choice, right? So reduces damage taken by 50% when hull is less than 33%. So, like, if you do get into that situation where you're actually low on health, the Black Prince is going to save you because it's going to significantly reduce how much damage you're taking, right? And then you do you here, but I went with Munitions Mixer, right? So increases duration of flooded and ablaze effects. You know, it does decrease the amount of damage that those effects do, but it basically doubles the length that they exist for, right? So if people aren't using restoration kits, that can be pretty brutal to have flooding and fire for extended periods of time, right? And then Culverin works and Bombard works, right, to help with the elements of the cannons and the bombards. Lead Kettle increases duration of flood. You see where we're going with this? We're capitalizing on what the weapons we're using, right? And then I went with double planked hull here, right, to give yourself just that little bit of extra hull health, right? And that, you know, as you upgrade the ship, you get more hull health as well. So then that double planked hull, the 5% becomes, you know, 5% of a bigger number makes you a little bit more, right? So, like, yeah. But, like, this, like I said, you build this out. This one's the one where I feel like you're not, you know, locked in. You know, like with something like this, the Sandbook, right? You almost have to equip fire stuff on that because it's a fire-centric ship, right? Like this one, I feel like you can do the build however you want, go to town, right? So like, there's so many options. There's so many options with this one. So, like, yeah, like the Lepes schematics, you know, gunpowder, like, yeah, the Lepes schematics are good because, like, you could, you know, it's pretty easy to get those critical hit spots with the Carronades on the sides, right? So that might be a good choice too, right? So, but yes, my number one choice, if I had to have, like, only one ship, right, like, it'd be the Sandbook just because of the DPS. Now, we're going to try and light somebody on fire and watch what happens when we light one ship in this convoy on fire, right? You don't even have to go for one of the actual, like, targets in the convoy. You could pick on one of the smaller, like in this example, one of these smaller chorus fleet ships. I always want to call them chorus fleet from, like, Minecraft, right? So I went after this one, and look, we went. It was way easier to light him on fire. I literally lit everyone in the convoy on fire, right? So then the way I like to do convoys is then I pick on one, you know, either the guy in the front or the guy in the back, and just pick on them until they're dead, right? We're doing this solo. There's nobody else here helping us out, at the time of recording anyway, right? So the DPS, like the amount of damage you can do in such a short amount of time is just insane with this ship, right? It's great for plundering. It's great for boss fights. It's great for convoys, right? Some people do like to call it, yeah, so the perks are over there on the right? Deals 5,000 burning damage when you apply the blaze effect, right? Like, and then it lights anybody else in the area on fire as well because it's a chain reaction, right? So anyone within 150 meters gets lit on fire. Then that person has the explosion, and anyone within 150 meters of them gets lit on fire, and that person has the explosion, right? So it's so crazy. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to see when it happens, right? But yeah, some people call this ship the glass cannon, right? Because its weakness is its hull health, right? It's got, crap for brace strength, not that great amount of hull health, right? So what we'll do here is we'll try to mitigate that a little bit with furniture, right? So I'll show you that as well. Zamzama's in the front. There's nothing better in my opinion, because this ship on the front side has 4 gun ports below deck, right? So you're getting 6 cannons by using, a regular cannon type weapon in the front, versus if you're using a top deck weapon, you'd only get 2, or if you're using a bow weapon, you only have the 1, right? So a lot of people use the flamethrowers, and those are fun to use, but they take a lot of time. You got to sit there, aim, you got to be close, right? So with the Zamzamas, it's this 1-second punch, and then you can start turning and shooting your other guns, right? Fire bombards all the way around, right? And then I still stand by my choice of the Flue for the Ox weapon, right? Everyone likes to argue with me on this, right? You need to pick something that's fire, right? But just this, I like the extra range of this. I like the toxic. I think it works. I think it works great. It gets rid of their stamina. They can't block the damage, right? If they're sitting in it at all, it's causing damage over time, right? But honestly, Inferno Maw, really, really good choice, right? So this is a weapon from this season, right? So if you don't, the Flue is from last season, so if you don't have it, you'd have to get it from the Legacy Crate or a lucky drop somewhere, right? But this Incinerate is wicked cool, right? Deployed buoy erupts into a fire explosion, which when destroyed deals 300% damage and instantly causes targets to get set ablaze, right? That's insane, and it looks so cool when it happens too. So throw a buoy out there. If there's a ship by it, shoot the buoy, and explosion and fire everywhere, right? Warhammer, also another good choice, a new weapon from this season, right? So the Inferno Maw comes from the Season Pass, the Smuggler's Pass. The Warhammer comes from the Bartender. You got to buy it for Sovereigns, right? But basically, a really cool rocket launcher. The range is kind of limited, but it works great, right? All right, so hull piece. I stand by the Black Prince for this because this ship does not have the greatest amount of health, right? So reduces damage taken by 50% when hull is less than 33%, right? That's huge, right? You can make it really difficult for someone to finish you off in this ship by having this armor piece, right? It is a Season 1 armor piece, but I have gotten it from drops from world events. And then I also use the Wailing Ward on here too if you're going to fight La Peste. But other than that, so that's why I went and highlighted it here. But otherwise, I'm using the Black Prince all the time, right? And that's, Wailing Wards from last season as well. Rigging Station, this is, I stand by this one too. I think this is a must for this build. Recovers 1% hull health per second when hull health is less than 20%. So this combined with the Black Prince makes you really, really difficult to get killed when you start losing health, right? So I do things like hostile takeovers, PvP, and people just cannot get that last little bit done to me, right? Everything else we're capitalizing on fire and bombards, right? So we're just kind of going and building it into, more 10%, increases damage to ships with the ablaze effect by 10%. Like, hell yeah, we light them on fire all the time, right? I do have double planked hull to help out with the low hull health, right? And then for the last piece, Bombard Monsieur 1, this I got from a world drop, right? So this is, I think, do those convoys if you don't have some of these pieces. But what I'm after here is the increased 10% more damage with bombards, right? There's some good furniture pieces that are minor furniture pieces that are, more rarity, right? So the torpedo one, that'd be great for Torpedo Works. This one I was getting from World Drops. This would be great for a Brigantine build or a Brace build, right? For the snow, that might be good on there too, right? And then this one, Boatswain's Toll, right? I got that from World Drops, from doing convoys. Increased crew attack damage, so if you've got a crew attack damage build. These blue ones, these came from the Smuggler's Pass, right? And they're just a little bit more focused on the mortars and the spring loaders, right? So I'm not even using them on anything right now. But yeah, there's those extra furniture pieces are out there, right? So But that is the video for today, guys. Those are my 4 favorite ships. I think, you know, the runner-up, like, you know, the Brig, the ship from this season, like, it's cool. I like it, but, like, you know, if I had to choose, I wouldn't give up one of these ships for that one, right? So, you know, right? And then you can do the Padawang or whatever it is, you know, an explosive build with that is kind of fun, you know. So there's others out there. You do you, whatever works for your play style. These are my 4 favorite, right? That's just kind of my opinion, right? But thank you guys so very much for watching my video all the way through. We're gonna finish up this world event that we, I think we soloed this. Like, oh no, somebody did actually end up coming and helping me out, right? But yes, make sure you're following and subscribe. We occasionally live stream. We have more Skull and Bones videos planned for the future. All right, and yeah, we'll see you next time.